Bring the horns in. We going all in.
Now, what happened to him and what happened to David Brosick, the other person who got the damages? David got $75,000. He was less harmed. Black represented the most harmed, David Brosick the least harmed. They were the two representative plaintiffs that established the kinds of damages that would then be allocated amongst 1,281 people. We're talking about a huge sum of money, which doesn't stand. It's all thrown out. The liability is thrown out, the damages is thrown out, everything is thrown out by a court of appeals in 2000. Years and years after we began the lawsuit, years and years of trying the lawsuit, they throw it out and say, start all over. You didn't successfully establish class-wide liability. How could you not establish class-wide liability when a helicopter comes dropping gas on the rebelling prisoners and gunshots are behind shooting indiscriminately at everybody? They killed 10 state people. 10 guards got killed that day, 29 prisoners and 10 guards. How could you not have class liability? It was a phony situation, one in which to make sure that rebelling, principally non-white prisoners would never recover anything like that from the state of New York or anyone else. And so we all stay together, we settle. The settlement, you have the brochure or the summary of the recovery of 500 prisoners out of the 1,281. And it's a decent summary, I must say, of what happened to everybody that day. And it's horrifying. I mean, when I say decent, it's horrifying. So after 2000, we have to settle. The Court of Appeals says, we're throwing out all of your verdicts. You didn't establish class liability. Now try individually 1,281 cases. I would still be here now discussing it and not finish the trial. 1,281. Go ahead, go back to the district court and try those cases. So obviously we were forced to settle. We settled for an inadequate amount of money, $12 million. $8 million went to the brothers, $4 million went to the lawyers. The lawyers kicked back more than $1 million back into the brothers' pot. And that's the end, if you will, of the Attica legal. The end of the Attica movement continues to today. I wouldn't be here today if there was no other reason other than legal. The reason is political. The reason is families. The reason is to expose the state for its cruelty, its barbarism, and maybe not to have another Attica massacre occur again. There has to be other Attica rebellions in the United States. But hopefully there'll be no end by massacres. You know, there's got to be. We have such a huge prison population in the United States that how could there not be rebellions? How could there not be? But not to have the end of the rebellion a massacre. And that's what Louis Steele and William Kunstler and Tom Wicker and Arthur O. Eve and David Rothenberg and 30 observers attempted to do, is not to have a massacre at the end of a rebellion, but to have a peaceful resolution, a negotiated settlement. And obviously it didn't happen. Herman Badillo, one of the observers who was then a congressperson from the South Bronx, turns to Tom Wicker while the gas is being dropped. They're still in the prison. And he says to Tom Wicker, "What's the hurry? What's the rush? There's always a time to die."
Bring the horns in. We going all in.